It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
Guess what, ladies and gentlemen, chipsters, chipsteros? It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. My name is Lara. I'm your host. Noticeably absent, if you haven't watched us for a couple of shows, is my good buddy Zeke Rodriguez, who is my partner in podcast. He's off on a new adventure that he couldn't resist and he had to take advantage of. But once in a while he might pop in, so he's not going to be a total stranger, but I just want y'all to be informed and know. We have a really great show for you today, and just a reminder, we record this on, today is Monday the 25th, and then we'll get it uploaded probably by tomorrow by our wonderful cast here at Organ Mountain Productions, and that is Joey Garza and his beautiful wife Haley. So please share it, spread it, and let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today on our show, and it's going to be really wonderful, so you won't want to miss any of it. If you do, come back and watch it later. So right next to me I have a wonderful candidate, and her name is Elizabeth Liz Winterrowd. And she is running for New Mexico State House District number, I want to get this right, number 53. Welcome to the Chips and Salsa Show. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. And we're going to have all kinds of good stuff, so be patient, please, while I introduce. And then today, helping me co-host, and he has a little story of his own, too, politically, too, is my good friend, Reynaud. Thank you, and welcome for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good. Okay, so did you want to say something real quick?
Oh, did you want me to launch my little story now? Or
we'll get to it.
Or we'll get with that.
Hang tight.
So my name is Reynaud, lifelong Las Cruces resident. Went to Mecca Mary Elementary School, Lynn Junior High, Las Cruces High, NMSU. So I'm from this area since 1960.
He's no stranger to politics here in New Mexico. That's one of the reasons that I wanted him to help me today. All right, so what we're going to do, we want to talk a little bit about some national issues first and some state and local ones real quick, and then we're going to focus, the bulk of the show is going to be on our candidate. This is not her first rodeo, so it's going to be really, really good. And we appreciate you tuning in. But first, before I get started, because I don't want to forget, we have this great magazine that we always talk about, okay? It's called Flavors of the Desert. And Joey and Haley put it together. It's free. You can find it. It really highlights a bunch of restaurants all around the area. It's beautiful. This is their brand new issue. This is issue number 2, right, guys? Great. And it's got some wonderful stuff in it. Look for it. Tell me again where you can find it.
Visit Las Cruces, the corporate center. We've been at the farmers market passing them out, and then all the wonderful establishments inside the magazine.
Fantastic. Yeah. So please pick it up and spread the word around. You know, Cruces is a big town now with its own little flavor magazine. So it's Flavors of the Desert. All right, well, good deal. Well, let's get started. I just want to talk real quick about some, let's start with national and work our way down to the local, and then we'll hit Liz. What do you think? Is that a good plan? Good? All right, good. And we'll get to your story also in just a moment. I just want to comment, though, the big story's here, and this went national, okay? It's about 45 minutes away. We have the El Paso border. Mm-hmm. And that got stormed by some illegal aliens the other day. I'm sure you guys have seen all the video.
Yes, saw the video.
Unbelievable, but not surprising. You know. Anything you want to say about that, Rick?
The story is that they're all on the U.S. side now. All these people that stormed the border, and it's just kind of embarrassing looking. The Border Patrol trying to stop them. And one border rusher just squeezing between them and running. It was it's just not it's not a way to defend a border. Even if you want immigration, you have to have an orderly process. That just doesn't work. That's not a good.
And was that the National Guard that was down there, or
I believe it was the National
Patrol?
I believe it was the National Guard. I could be wrong.
I think it was the National Guard. That was my understanding. I'm sure the Border Patrol were somewhere around there as well.
It's interesting to say somewhere, yeah.
Yes, it's pretty upsetting what's going on with our border, and I think. Well, I campaign down in Chaparral, which is very close to El Paso, and even some of the people who are not legally in the United States but live here and have been here for a while, are not in favor of what's happening right now, ironically.
Yeah, very true, very true. But people are like, Alice, it's right there. It's El Paso. And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I expect more things like this to happen. I really do. It's going to be crazy. And then the other national story I wanted to mention, too, is I just heard today that the bail for Trump, for President Trump, they've lowered it. It's not, what was it, 454 million? And now it's
Roughly 175 million, which would be way too much for any of us to imagine, but
still outrageous.
Still outrageous.
Still
yes.
outrageous. Can they appeal again? Do we know?
I'm not sure, but it's still a victimless crime because all of the creditors that Trump borrowed from, they were all paid back. They were all warned.
How dare he pay them back?
And the Trump organization said, here's our valuation, but make sure you go double check. This is ours, so do your due diligence, and they did it. They made the loan. The loan was paid back, and there's no victims. It seems to me. So,
yeah.
My understanding is he said he would pay this and be able to pay it, and then move on. So, I don't know that they will appeal again, and I don't know what the rules would be on that.
They may not. And sorry, I forgot to shut my phone off. But sometimes it's okay because, you heard my theme, my ringtone. It's my good friend Ruben Obed who wrote this in 2016 for the Trump campaign. This Latino's going to vote for Trump. So one of these days we'll just play the song because, you probably get tired of hearing it on my ringtone. Yeah, because this Latina, she is going to vote for Trump. I wanted also, real quick, to talk to Rick specifically because he has a little local story. And this kind of, I know I have a lot of people from Arizona that watch and around the country, but I think this might kind of apply to a lot of things locally. Sometimes it's hard to get information about exactly what the rules are, especially when it comes to elections. So in New Mexico, just in the last couple of weeks we've been talking about it. We had our candidates file for the state offices, and there was an opportunity to be a write-in. So Rick, you kind of tried to take advantage of that opportunity. Try to tell your little story here, because I think it's very interesting.
Okay, the last day to file for candidacy was March 12th for the Senate and Republican districts and representative districts here across the state. But we found out, we had 4 districts, Senate District 37 and 3 representative districts that had no Republicans in the primary, no Republicans at all. And then we found out through Henry Young that you can do a write-in candidate and get someone in as the Republican nominee, and the due date is 1 week past March 12th, was March 19th.
I should just interject, Henry Young is the Doña Ana County chairman for the Republican Party.
So now we had until March 19th, last Tuesday, 5 o'clock, to get 55 signatures and my affidavit in. But where there's some confusion last Saturday, we thought it was 1 ballot or 7. So we had 7 at that time last Saturday, so we thought we were doing good. Come Monday, we found out we needed 55, and that's when we started scrambling. One good thing about this whole thing is we know now that if we don't get a candidate in the primary, the regular way, we have 1 more week for a write-in candidate. And so anyway, just the last part of my little story is I was running down to the county clerk's office near 5 o'clock with not enough ballots. I only had 35 at that time.
And you needed 55?
I needed 55, yes. I parked in the handicapped area in front of the county clerk's office, ran across the sidewalk, waved at the cop. I said, I'm late. And he didn't ask me what I was late for. So I get to the county clerk's office. It's right near 5 o'clock, and I hand it to a worker there, and they didn't know what it was. You could tell. And there was 2 of them. But then
this is at the county clerk's office.
Right, at the outer office of the county clerk's office, and they're looking at it, and then I could see a light went on in their head. It was, well, we better clock it in, whatever it is. And so they handed it to one person, and if you've seen the old Carol Burnett, Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, the Tim Conway episode where he scoots along about half a mile
His
an hour.
old man shuffle.
Yeah, well, so the Mrs. Tim Conway there at the county clerk's office was walking back through the door to clock it in, and the digital clock there was turning. It just turned 5 o'clock even, so I was there looking at her. I was kind of waving, and I was going like this, clock it in. So anyway, I was late. It was 5:01, so I was late on 2 counts.
Oh, yeah.
It was 5:01, and I only had 35 ballots. I was hoping to get in by 5 o'clock with the 35 and just make up some kind of excuse. the computer system went down or something until I get the 55.
Yeah.
Until I get the 55 signatures. So.
So you did not. They did not.
So I did. They asked, "Do you want it back?" I said, "No, I want to turn it in." So I would get an official disqualification letter, and I got one.
Oh, okay.
And it was based on the time 501. They could have done it on both. So, but the good thing about the whole story is we know now if we're left without a Republican in the primary, we can get one in.
You can still have an
We can still get one in. It's from the New Mexico Election Code 1-8-36.1 primary election law write-in candidates. So.
Well, you know, a big A for effort. And next time we should know, as Republicans, now we know. So watch out for the write-ins. That information, here's one thing, and you guys, I'm still kind of relatively new to the New Mexico dynamics and politics, but it just appears to me whenever I need to find something out, it's very difficult to get information. We were talking about this just prior to the show. You know, and I'm not going to just blame like one person or one department necessarily. I did, as we were talking, I did call the Secretary of State one time, and I got this guy, he knew all kinds of stuff. I said, can I please just have your cell phone number so I can just call you direct next time, which of course he couldn't do. But it's really difficult to get some information, so this is a real good lesson, as you say, to become educated in elections and what we have to do, because there isn't any reason we should at least have another option, another Republican on there too. Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts before we close out this topic, Liz, on that?
Well, one of the things we do need to be really working hard as Republicans and conservative Republicans is filling up those seats and having competition, because we won't win anything if we don't try, right? So let's remember the possibility of a write-in, but also we have to work really hard at getting people to run, and really it's a right that was fought for and people died for it, and we need to remember that.
No, you're absolutely right. It's really true. So I appreciate you stating that. And on to the next election, let's try to do things a little bit different. Maybe we'll have a little bit more momentum and get it done. I also wanted to mention another big story here locally, and again, it's probably happening out there in your communities, wherever you are. If you're familiar with New Mexico, the Southwest, we have a very historic past here. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this before on the show, but Doña Ana County, which Doña means, remember, if you followed us, Chips and Salsa show, my partner, we used to call him Don Jorge, which means he was kind of an elder, and it's like an official, respectful title. So our county is Doña Ana, and historically, I'm just going to give the quick story because you probably know more about this, Rick, but evidently she was a lady, Doña Ana, her name was Ana, and her last name was Robledo, I believe I had that right. And in fact, I found out there's a statue at Lady of Purification Church, but she was fleeing as a settler, and the logo was created in 1965 for Doña Ana County, and it was a beautiful logo. Okay, just to quickly describe it, I should have had a picture up here. Mm-hmm. I'll try to put one on our Facebook site. But it had a Spaniard on a horse, I'll say, and a bunch of cool things that if you saw it, it would make you think of Doña Ana County with our Organ Mountains and things like that. Well, the county commission decided to change that back in November and put up a really boring logo that we thought. And officially today, I just want to give you a quick update, and then we can talk about this, because I don't think anybody here really liked that logo that much. It's kind of boring. Mm-hmm. But evidently, they were saying in the press conference today, the PIO, the Public Information Officer, Anita Skipper, that's a logo, but they're actually going to keep a seal. The seal is very much like the old logo, but guess what's missing? There's no Spaniard on the horse. Interesting, very interesting. Mm-hmm. So I'm still trying to understand all of that. I'm very disappointed, because I feel like it's trying to erase a lot of our history. And the argument for them is, we're trying to, we're changing, we're growing, we've got to modernize. And I'm not so sure that needs to be done. So I'm going to go to Rick first on this. And tell me what you think about this, Rick. And then for full disclosure, it's Rick Reynaud, but actually half of your background is, like mine, very Latino.
Yes, my mother's Latino, Josefo Munoz, and my dad is Raymond Reynaud, the bad white guy now.
The bad white guy. Oh, is
And talking about this, I want to shift over to the renaming of Oñate High School, and that was in 2021, where 80% of the parents, 80% of the students, 80% of the faculty and staff was against it, but they still renamed Oñate High School. And the silly thing is, they named it Organ Mountain High School. Well, Oñate's expedition back in the 1500s, they're the ones that named the Organ Mountains, Los Órganos. So it's kind of silly, they went round in circles and someone can still say Organ Mountain was named by Oñate. So there's a push to rename history. Oñate's now a bad guy, he's a colonizer. He's a colonizer now. Same thing happened, and I'll end with that one. I can swing into the July 15th City Council meeting, but we can get that in a minute. They didn't want to rename Motel Boulevard Pat Garrett Boulevard because he was a sheriff and he murdered for fame. That's Billy the Kid. So anyway,
right, he shot down Billy the Kid, for those, just to remind you. Also, just want to point to our lovely logo that we have. We have the Organ Mountains back there too. And then we have the Sunzia sign, which is New Mexico as well. Which, that, if you see that, of course, chips and salsa, you think about New Mexico automatically, right?
That's right.
That's what I thought a logo is kind of supposed to be. So we'll go to you now, Liz, and give us your thoughts about this.
Well, I'm not...
As the gringo. No,
As the gringo, yes. Well, I grew up in New Mexico, but... So I claim a little bit of that because I did grow up in the land of enchantment, and I think it's kind of a plain logo. I have a friend who actually entered the contest with a couple of different choices to design a new logo, and she won first and second, but they didn't use hers. So I was a little disappointed about that. But it obviously is very plain. It could have been used pretty much anywhere that had a river through it or a body of water, right? Yeah. So it doesn't really say much about the characteristics of our county on that logo. So yeah, it's a little plain, a little just modern.
And Liz, I'm glad you mentioned the river, because when I first saw it, and I wish I could show it to you, we'll try to get it up, like I say, on our Facebook site, or maybe Joey and Haley, they're good about doing that stuff, getting the graphics up. But the blue thing that went through it, I'm like, what is that blue thing? I said, oh, that must be the river. And then somebody commented, well, it's only half the time it has water in it too. So, oh, disappointing. And then you sent me the entries that actually won. Which look, and the other part of this too, and of course we have to mention it because we talk politics here. The bulk of the logo is blue. I mean, sorry, yeah, blue. A lot of blue,
yes,
right?
very blue.
And the bottom part is one little line of red. So, New Mexico is blue. Politically, it's very blue. But you just can't help but think, was that done on purpose? I mean, I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know. Any conspiratorial thoughts about that, Rick?
Well, the process is kind of crazy if number 1 and 2 didn't get picked. And so we've run into that a lot. Like we went to the school board in 2021 and we gave them a mountain of evidence. It was even bigger than a mountain, and they just voted the way they wanted to vote. There's a lot of there's a lot of pre-programmed voting, on the Democratic side. Sometimes for certain issues, it seems like they're told to vote. And so anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
The claim is too, when Allison, my friend Allison, I went to talk to the PIO, is I asked her, did you survey the citizens? Did you send out an electronic survey or something? Well, we've been getting complaints for a long time. I said, well, how long? I said, oh, for about 20 years about this. And I'm thinking, wow, really? And well, it's kind of another one we dropped the ball on this. I actually read about this back a few months ago, and I had really kind of forgotten about it. So now I don't know that there's really much we can do except complain about it. At least they're keeping a logo which is reminiscent of it. But it's very disappointing, and maybe this will inspire us to try to keep things traditional. What's next on the chopping block? Yeah.
That's right. What is next? We're surprised every day.
Right.
That's for sure.
Boy, and that is true.
Well, we did successfully fend off the renaming of Squaw Mountain Road, And Michael Potts was instrumental in that because he surveyed the 25 residents and nobody was for renaming the road. Same thing with Baylor Peak. They're going after Baylor Peak
I want to interrupt
next.
you on that though.
Yeah.
The last city council meeting, whoever was running the meeting, I can't remember which councilor it was because the mayor was out, but she actually asked somebody there from the city and said, hey, whatever happened to, what was it called?
Squaw Mountain.
Squaw
Mountain?
Right.
We were supposed to get that changed. And what happened is the person responded, well, that's not on the agenda, so we can't talk about that. Did you? And it was real quick, so we got to look into that, Rick, because I think they're still trying to do it.
Yeah, we thought we squashed it about a year and a half ago because Michael Potts went through the process and found the required numbers of neighbors to say no, and they were mad about that, but apparently Mayor Pro Tem Bencombe was still got that in her mind.
So we'll give you a follow-up. And like I say, this seems very local because this is Las Cruces, New Mexico. We're about 115,000 people here, maybe over 200,000 in the county. But these things are happening in cities all over the country, I think. So it's very relevant. All right, well, let's see. we're going to get directly to Liz because we want to spend a lot of time about her campaign. Just one more thing real quick before we transition is this Thursday, if you happen to be, I know that this show is going to stay on YouTube for a while, but this Thursday, the CCIA, Coalition of Conservatives in Action, we are going to have two really good speakers there, and that's going to be the police chief, Jeremy Story, and then also the liaison officer, the community liaison, who is Charlie Velasco, who we've had him before, and he's very good. So if you are in the area, Thursday, 6 p.m., we're at Kitchen Craft, right next to the Rudy's Barbecue. Come and ask questions. Be ready for that. We hope you can attend. And it doesn't matter what party you are. It's nonpartisan. Democrats go there. And it's a lot of Republicans, as you can imagine, but that's okay. We welcome everybody. Come and be informed. All right, so now I want to directly, the star of our show, okay, Liz Winterrowd, and she's got this wonderful sign she brought with us. She's got a really nice car. See, this reminds me of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Well done, Liz.
Those two.
Well done. So Elizabeth Winterrowd, and I'm going to read just a few bullet points about her, if that's okay. Great. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her. She's actually in our women's club, the Doña County Federated Republican Women. She has 4 grown children, and including one adopted through the New Mexico foster system. So she takes her pro-life role very, very seriously. She was a special education teacher and teacher of gifted students for 17 years. Salute, girl. She's personally experienced the struggle of educating students, as well as the failure of CYFD to protect New Mexican children. She's got a master's degree in education, so she knows what she's talking about. And this is great because, Rick, I know you followed the education stuff, school boards for a long time, so this is going to be a really good interview. She gained experience working with people of all backgrounds, a world traveler as an Air Force wife for 22 years. Salute. And hey, her husband Dave is right here kind of in the audience. Salute, Dave, and thank you for your service, buddy. Go Air Force. And she says, my time in the school system and my years of community service have prepared me to listen and give the people of southern New Mexico a voice in Santa Fe. And I'm going to let you get to the rest of it there, but I always like to start, and Rich, just jump in with your questions as well. This is very laid back. Why the heck do you want to run for this job? You've done it before. Why do you want to do it again, Liz? Are you nuts?
Maybe. I might be, but I ended up in the position in 2022 where no one was really wanting to run for that position for state rep of District 53. So it was sort of more like, I don't know what this is about, but somebody should be running. So kind of like you were trying to do this year. But I went ahead and got my signatures and got my information put in there. And this is how I feel about anything that I do. But people have to donate their time. They have to donate money to me. I have no money to run on without donations, and they have to put some faith into me, right? So I have to work extremely hard, and I did. And the reason I ran was because I am very discouraged with the direction New Mexico is going in. I grew up in Socorro, New Mexico, so I was part of the history of myself is New Mexico and all the cultures and why are we going to make everything vanilla now, like we're talking about with the logo, right? So why are we going against the cultural, family valued, pro-life people in New Mexico that want to have strong families? And so I thought it was really a civic duty to run because I couldn't find anybody. I asked a few people. I couldn't find anybody else who would do it. So I thought, well, I'm going to do my best. So I worked really hard at it. My opponent was funded twice as much as me. He won by 133 votes. And I actually won.
Breaks my heart.
I know.
133.
So I lost. I won in Doña Ana County, in my area in Doña Ana County, but I have an area of Chaparral that is in Otero County, and it was honestly the hardest area to walk in and get to know people in.
Very rural.
And
How would you
yes,
describe
very
it?
fenced, big lots, several acres usually. And it's just hard to meet people out there and get your name out there. So I lost in that area alone. I actually won in Doña Ana County. So this time, same deal, except the state had gotten even further away what I consider the ideals of New Mexico and the culture of New Mexico, and just voted in things that I believe are crazy from a parent, from a teacher, from a grandparent aspect. So I thought, having done as well as I had, I should try again, and that's why I'm running this year.
And we're so glad that you did. You know, this is not your first rodeo, so you have a lot of experience. You have a lot of wisdom, actually, to impart to other candidates as well, because you've done this. You know, I think I kind of warned you before the show, but my husband Mark said, could you ask her maybe what can be done, or how can we ensure, we were just talking about trying to find out what the rules are and following them correctly. Do you feel confident that that's going to happen in this? I mean, 130 votes, I wish I could go and audit every precinct or every election place.
Well, it depends on who you talk to as to whether the elections are fair, if there's, we obviously, our counties, our districts, were gerrymandered, and that took a lot of the conservative vote out of District 53 because it used to go down into the edge of Alamogordo. So Alamogordo is very conservative. So it did change the complexion of the district when it was redistricted. Now, whether there's cheating with the voting, the more interest the average citizen has in seeing that it happens correctly, the better off we'll be.
A little bit more insurance.
So there's poll watchers, there's people working the polls. I have my own ideas about how it should be run. I don't like the boxes. I think it's too easy to drop off. Yeah, I see nothing wrong with having an ID to vote. We have an ID for everything else. So
is that one of the things you might want to introduce a bill?
It's something that is of interest to me that I would certainly approve of, is having IDs. And I see no valid reason not to. I know a lot of people say that it creates a disadvantage for the poor, but I think even the poor have to have some kind of valid ID to do anything. So why would we not use it for voting? I don't think that it's a valid reason not to have IDs. So that's an unpopular opinion in the liberal left.
And that's why we like it here, ladies and
But
gentlemen.
I like it, and I do think the more people just on the ground, like I'm just ordinary citizen, had never been involved in politics. The more we get involved, the more we have to say about what's going on in our state.
That is the truth. And, Rick has been very involved in politics. And, that's why I love having you guys on, because I'm still learning New Mexico. If you jump on in here.
One thing I was going to say is I am now in District 53, Liz's house district, and I was in District 37, Ms. Ferrara's district.
Which was my district.
And so they're doing some major gerrymandering. I got a phone call from Dave Tofstead 2 years ago, and he said, Rick, I don't think you're in 37 anymore. And then so I went on and logged on and said, I'm in 53 now. Well, that's Chaparral down there. That's it is a different district. So that happens in New Mexico. One thing I was going to say is on the voter ID, 77% of Hispanics and 78% of black voters want voter ID. So when we were over at
that just can't be true.
And
minorities aren't like that. They're disenfranchised.
And then we faced that at the school board. When we were fighting the school board 3 years ago, we were at the Learning Center, and a person there was showing us, we're looking at a social studies book, and it said, voter ID is not fair because minorities can't get the IDs. And I was with a Hispanic woman, and we were talking to the lady at the Learning Center, and the Hispanic lady that I was with was saying that's an insult to Hispanics, and she thought that was something good, that she was doing something good, that voter ID, and so that was in a textbook, and we noted that and said that's not right. That's not, the local Hispanics do not go along with that. So.
No, that's a very good point.
No, I don't think that we should be disparaging people's ability to be educated and learn about voting, getting an ID, getting into the community and voting. We do need to educate people and have that information really readily available. But no, I agree that it is not valid, and it's interesting that certain people on the left fight it so hard when our country is being flooded with people who don't have the right technically to vote. So how are you going to keep that straight, right?
Yes, and you keep seeing, places like New York where they want to allow the non-citizens to vote, and in California to vote in the municipal elections and everything. I'm like, it's becoming to where someone who is not a citizen has more rights than us, and that's not what was intended. Your citizenship is it's sacred, it's very valuable. So I'm really glad that you feel that way about things. I do want to talk about, because I know you're well versed in this too. In New Mexico, I've talked about this before, there was a referendum process. So there were some really bad laws, 6 specifically really bad laws that passed. And there's a process of acquiring enough signatures from voters to have those on the ballot in November when we have an election. And the New Mexico voters can have a chance to say, no, I don't want these anymore. So give like a little maybe synopsis of that, because I know you're very well versed in it.
Yes, I've been out and campaigned a little bit here and there when they were doing the referendum drive. So the referendum, you're trying to get signatures of people who would be voters in New Mexico and saying that they want those to go on the ballot. I brought my notes about why it is so bad, and what we found is a lot of people do not know that these laws were passed in 2023. They're shocking even to the most radical person out there, but most of New Mexicans are not as radical. It is people, I think, that have come into the state that are more radicalizing our state. But when people find out that we are offering abortion and transgender care with no parental consent to minors, that's shocking to me. I don't know about you, but I think if it was your kid, you would be not only shocked but appalled. So your parents also have trouble just receiving medical information about your children. I'm talking like 14 and above, but there's really no age set on the abortion and transgender care, and that was put in there actually with a penalty for people that might be public employees, such as school teachers or school staff.
Elizabeth, isn't the fine something like $5,000 or something outrageous?
I believe it's 10,000.
Wow.
I'm looking here. The bill allows for a $10,000 fine against those who use, okay, maybe it specifies here, digital means to discuss alternative treatment options. So, for example, in the case of an abortion, anyone who discusses baby boxes, adoption, or safe houses for mothers can safely give birth can be fined in violation of this law. Well,
Man.
is that not most of us? We
Right.
would want at least, even if you want your child to have this kind of care, you would want to be involved, and you would want to know what's happening to them. You would want to be able to provide them with support and supervision, right? So you're not...
Something goes wrong,
Something goes wrong, which it can easily. One of the really upsetting things that was put into law too is that, you know how our doctors, and we've lost so many doctors from this state.
That's a whole other show, yeah.
That's a whole other show, but they can be fined so extremely high fines or lawsuits and things for malpractice or something like that. So they actually removed that from people that are providing gender reassignment care and abortions, so they don't have to live up to the same standards.
Wow.
As the rest of the medical population.
And I
does.
want to reiterate what you said, because I've actually gone and gathered petitions myself too. And 95% of the people that I talk to, first they say, oh, these are going to be laws. No, they're laws right now. They have no idea. They have no idea that information is not out there. And that's one of the things that the Chips and Salsa Show New Mexico is trying to do, because there is a lack of political information and things that are happening in New Mexico. So really appreciate everybody that tunes in to watch.
Along that line, my announcement for my bid and running again for the second time has gone out multiple times, and as far as I know, only one conservative newspaper in New Mexico has published it. So in my district, nobody has published it.
Really? It's very interesting, isn't it?
I think it's very interesting, especially the first time I could see maybe lack of interest. They didn't know me or anything, but when you come as close as I did in a race and you're not going to publish the announcement that I am running again, you are showing extreme bias.
I agree.
Because that is news. It should be news for my district.
That's it. When I had a short stint as a Republican commissioner primary, but the Bulletin published it. I'm not sure if did you have bad luck with them this time, the Las Cruces Bulletin?
I think that they published my name as my opponent from last year has a primary. So I think they published that with the opponent's opponent, if you want to say, for the primary, the Democrat opponents. And then if whoever wins that would face me, it was just like one little blurb. But I had a whole letter presented to the publications around the state. And as to my knowledge, I have not been published at all that I'm running. Except with Opinion Post, which is a little conservative.
That's right. That's like and there, I just saw their addresses in Alamogordo. I didn't realize they were from Alamogordo. I thought maybe they were Santa Fe.
No, that's actually Representative John Block is the one that
is that right?
makes up.
I learn something new here every day. I didn't know.
Opinion
How
Post.
embarrassing! I didn't know that. Did you know that, Rick?
Yes, he's a Pinon Post guy.
Okay. Well, please keep educating me. And on the subject of education, so Liz has a great background, and you can jump in here, Rick, very well too. New Mexico. I hate always saying this, but it's true. New Mexico is dead last in education. And that's so sad, because when I was a little girl growing up here, I remember the teachers complaining because we get people that move from California and they're like, oh, those kids are so behind. You know, we were not last. I had some excellent, wonderful teachers. I'm sure that you got, I feel like you guys did too. But you know, I think you have They don't want you in there, Liz, because you're going to be doing a lot of stuff with education, aren't you?
Well, that's what I would hope to do. I get really excited when I talk about education, so be careful.
Rick, jump in here. You're the education dude also.
So, I definitely believe in local control, and I believe we're such a hugely diverse state that I don't know how to say it, but the pattern is not one fits all,
Yeah.
right? So I grew up in Socorro. It's a very small town, but then just outside of Socorro is Magdalena, which is a teeny tiny town, and then
My
outside
great
of
nephew just did a tournament there.
Okay.
I know about that place.
And then outside of Magdalena is the reservation, the Alamo Reservation. So teachers and students from the ranches, from the reservations, there's a lot of travel involved in teaching those students and traveling back and forth to school. So you've seen that the governor wants to change that schedule. They were on a 4-day schedule. Surprisingly,
To accommodate.
to make it easier for people going back and forth. Okay, so that's one thing that is very unique to our state and unique to the kind of terrain we live in.
We have weather out here.
We have weather, we have mountains, we have a lot of travel to come in from a ranch, etc., or to get out to a reservation school. So I'm really very much for tailoring things to what the needs are of that community. Now, there's a lot of exciting things that could be done to improve our education. It is not easy, and it would take a lot of hard work. But it's Mississippi used to be below us. Now they're making progress.
Past us, yeah.
And so I think that we we need to look at who's successful, what is successful, what we can do to change that, what the needs are of each locality is. We need to be very specific to the population of that school in that area. I'm very much pro charter schools. I'm very much pro private schools. I actually homeschooled a little bit myself as a parent, moving around with the military, and I sent my kids to a private school for a while. It depended on the schools in the area, and not everybody has that choice without funding. You're a single parent, you're always going to have a disadvantage if you're on a low income.
Liz, on the subject of funding, it seems like there isn't enough money out there, because it always seems like the left is like, we got to throw more money at it.
There's so much money in the state of New Mexico. People don't realize we are not a poor state in the government. We do have a lot of taxes coming in from our oil and gas industry, which, by the way, is a whole nother day because we're biting the hand that feeds us with the taxing and regulations that we put on the oil and gas industry. Some of it needs to be done. Some of it is just trying to drive them out with the agenda that we have right now, right? But there's a lot of money that comes from that, and our education program should be like first thing that gets that money. We should be taking care of our young and our old, our veterans, right? The people that need, because the young is our future.
Right.
The elderly are the people that we should respect and take care of as part of our culture. And our veterans fought and died or were wounded for us. So we need to just channel the money in a way that is most productive.
And the money is there.
The money is there. The way it's used, I don't always agree with.
You know, Rick, I know that you follow a lot of the local stuff and curriculum and things that are in there too.
One thing we found 3 years ago, we were fighting the policy JBC at Las Cruces Public Schools, JBC Equity, and we found out
JBC.
JBC is a series of letters. It's a system, but the policy was equity and excellence for all students. And in that May of 2021, In those 2 weeks, we found out that they were talking white privilege in the classroom. See, that had never happened before. That came in 2019.
That's pretty recent.
2019. And we knew it was going on because we had an IPRA from a white kid, and his parents were saying this anti-white stuff is exploding. This is 2021. So immediately we started trying to get the curriculum that they said they were going to have ethnic studies and this and that, and they won't release the curriculum. And then finally I got, in 2021, the answer was, it's not a curriculum, it's a pedagogy. The way they were getting all this nonsense was the teachers are being taught this stuff, white privilege and implicit bias, which has been debunked. Implicit bias has been debunked. They're giving training to school board members at Las Cruces Public Schools across the state. It's nothing but implicit bias this, implicit bias that. White people are not implicit biased. It was debunked in 2017. If anyone says implicit bias, it was debunked in 2015 by the inventor of the test.
Are they still using it?
But they're still using it. We heard the January training for school board members and faculty and staff at Las Cruces Public Schools. Implicit bias this, your implicit bias that. It's like, it doesn't exist anymore.
Candidate Liz Winterrowd, do you have any power over that?
Well, it's kind of it's a tricky subject, because if you're a white person, say that that training's not right, you're not supposed to be using implicit bias, this and that, then they'll say, oh, you're racist. And then if you're Hispanic, they might accuse you of being you're a traitor. But I have a parent, one that's white and one is Hispanic. It's just nonsense. They shouldn't be talking white talk in any Las Cruces classroom. And it started. We found out it was going on in 2021, and they didn't care. We said, you guys shouldn't be doing this. And so that's just one of the many problems we're dealing with. One thing I was going to go back to on the notification of gender affirming care at schools and across New Mexico. Mm-hmm. They can take your child, and the teacher notifies the parent, and they're fined $5,000. And then they're going to take your child down the hallway and maybe give them puberty blockers. Now, Great Britain just banned puberty blockers for gender affirming care. It was within the last week, and another nation. Because what puberty blockers really are cancer drugs, strong cancer drugs, and they're using them as puberty blockers. So one question I had of LCPS is, are you guys going to follow suit with Great Britain in New Mexico with these puberty blockers? So that's one of the many questions we have for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly, yes, Europe was ahead of us in that move, and now they're backing up on it because they see the influence. What's happening is that people that go through a lot of this transgender reassignment, it causes chronic pain. It's obviously causing infertility if you really get into it, and
it seems like child abuse.
It seems like child abuse, it is to me, but then they're saying that you should allow it because these kids will commit suicide. But what Europe has found, and Great Britain is the latest one that came out on that. I think it might have been the Netherlands, possibly.
It could be the Netherlands.
But I don't remember that for sure. But they had also changed that ruling not to let it be done until they're an adult. So what they found, in fact, was the people that underwent these changes, especially surgically, chopping off, vital parts of your body, right?
Adding or chopping, yeah.
But their suicide rate actually went up among the people that had those things done as they got older. Right. And remember, the brain is not fully developed and mature until 25, 30. So you're asking a very immature brain to make lifelong decisions based on what could ultimately be a fad. In a lot of cases, it's sort of the cool thing to do, maybe, or you don't fit in with the group. Plus, there's also just the whole mentally having something wrong that's causing you to feel this way. So you're not treating it with the appropriate means. You know,
It
you're
could
going.
need psychiatric evaluation or something. It
You're
doesn't seem like they
yeah.
just jump right
Yeah.
into it.
Well, they're jumping right into it, but you're creating a lifetime patient when you do these things. So you look at who's going to
Gee, money
benefit. Who's going to benefit from this? A lot of it is going to be pharmaceutical companies and the doctors who actually do this kind of reassignment care. So you're looking at, you always have to follow the money. Now, you asked if I would have anything to say as a state representative. My hope is that I would be placed on the education committee and be able to
Great for that.
be there with other people making decisions for the state level. And there are many other conservatives in Santa Fe who are a total agreement as far as having the money follow the student so that they can go to a private school or a charter school, or, you know, there's any number of ways to approach it. But most of the conservative politicians in Santa Fe do believe that the control should be more a local kind of control. For example, they're saying on the reservation they need to teach the native language. Totally for that. But take it a step further and integrate their culture and how they best learn. You know, you're going to learn differently in different cultures. And not the basic ability to learn, but the cultural way of learning, you know. So you need to look at those things very closely and at a local level.
So they can actually be educated. Well, we're down to like about our last 7 or 8 minutes, and go ahead, Liz, and give your information, website, how people can contact you. You know, I always do this because you might be living in another state, or maybe you're in another district in New Mexico. But if you want to help the state of New Mexico and actually the whole nation to become more conservative and advocate for you, don't worry about it. Send her a few bucks. You can do that. It's not, you can do that. If you live in Arizona and you got $100 you want to send, go for it. So give that information out right now.
Well, in fact, a lot of the money for Democrat candidates in New Mexico comes from unions and out of state. So the Republicans are generally always overspent. You know, they have more money to spend on having a party for their one area or another, you know, that kind of thing, give out food, that type of thing. I had to be very frugal last year, and I will again this year, I'm sure. But
that's your nature as a conservative.
That's
What's your
nature.
website?
My website is liz4nm.com. Liz
That's not an easy one.
4nm.com, and look me up there. I'm also on Facebook, Campaign to Elect Elizabeth Lee Winterrowd. Look on Facebook. I do post pretty frequently to my Facebook account, and of course you can always get a hold of Chips and Salsa if you need a way to find
I'll
out.
route you to her. Do you have an email or something?
It's very simple too. It's just lizwinterrowd@gmail.com.
And Winterrowd is spelled. I know how to spell this stuff.
It's a little hard to spell, but winter, and then another ROWD as in dog, Winterrowd.
Like a winter road. Because it's going to be, you know, it's always a tough road no matter what you're doing as far as a candidate. And it's going to be, I think it's a little easier for you because you've done this before. But I don't want you to leave without asking you also about, because to me one of the most important issues, and we're a border state, and Rick would probably agree with me on this, and in New Mexico, I believe you can come here, and maybe you don't live here legally, but you can get an ID, right? They issue IDs.
I don't really know the answer to that. I need to look that up because I've
driver's
wondered
license?
that myself. There was a period of time where you could definitely get driver's license even if you were not a legal citizen in the state of New Mexico. A lot of people were coming in for that. I don't know if we ever changed it or not. So
I've got some homework for you.
I got some homework.
Unless you know, Rick, do you know?
I know to vote, you can draw a picture now of where you live.
It just keeps getting worse, man.
Bev Corning brought that up, and it's on the state of New Mexico ballot, and you're supposed to give an address of something nearby, but you can draw a picture, and here's a ditch, and I live there.
You're making that up, man.
No, I'm not. I'll look it up. But
Wow,
More
really?
homework.
Yeah, more
More
homework.
homework.
So you got to get educated?
it's on the state SOS site, and it's crazy.
Wow. Or I want to give you. Go ahead. Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, for a long time, it was just a utility bill. Here's a utility bill on this, and then and your live. That's proof of citizenship, and it was just crazy.
To prove that you're
It's not much better because you walk in and you don't have to show an ID. Many people here in New Mexico will walk in and show their ID. Here's my ID. I know I don't need it, but here it is. So anyway,
Well, the Cheryl DeYoung, who's running for the county clerk, she says, because when I was amazed when I went up there, they just said, you know, I gave them my name and they said, oh, that information screen, is that correct? Yeah, go ahead. Didn't ask for my ID. Had been in Arizona, like, you don't want my ID? How do you know it's me? She insists when she goes to vote, she says she takes out her ID and she gives it to them and makes them look at it and makes them bring up her information. She won't say who she is. I thought, well, that's a very interesting concept to do that. But I want to give you a couple of minutes kind of to address our audience and maybe something we didn't cover that you really like to talk about. Because this is a very good candidate here, and we need more people like you to run. And, I would love it if next time we talk to you, I mean, hopefully it's before the election, but, I think your campaign's going to be strong. So the microphone is yours, my dear.
Okay. I will tell you this. The biggest thing that helps me is volunteers. I obviously need money, as I said, but the boots on the ground in Chaparral, boots on the ground in Las Cruces, boots on the ground. I cannot go and campaign out at White Sands Missile Range, but it's part of my district. So if you live out there, spread the word. Don't get yourself in trouble or anything.
Nothing illegal,
Nothing
immoral,
illegal,
or
immoral, or unethical. But please help if you can in some way. Our Republican Ward 53 is going to be meeting tomorrow, discussing going out and walking and talking to people and just bringing the information to them on the changes in New Mexico and why we're fighting so hard to change it. And I'm a fighter. I'm going to fight really hard. I work hard, and I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
It's wisdom and experience.
The boots on the ground help me so much. Having a meet and greet for me in your home so I can meet the people around you that can vote for me. If you live in House District 53 or do a fundraiser for me, anything like that. Every little bit helps. I wasn't involved before 2020, and then I saw the handwriting on the wall of what was happening with our country. And as an American citizen, as a New Mexican, and as a former military spouse, because my husband's retired now, I can tell you that a lot of people have fought and died for the ideals that are being thrown out the window right now. So please help, please fight, and please pray for us as we do this journey.
So that's Liz Winterrowd, New Mexico House District number 53. You can find information, Liz, Liz, 4FORNM.com. And just real quick, I looked it up and it says, evidently New Mexico offers driving privileges to unauthorized immigrants. Unauthorized immigrants, that's some new terminology all the time. So that's 2023, so we'll get a little bit more into that.
One thing that people don't realize is it's not about not loving these people.
No,
it's
not
about the law, and if we don't live up to the letter of the law, then there's all chaos is breaking loose.
Very well said. Rick, any closing thoughts? Really appreciate you being here today, helping me co-host.
Well, just following up on what Liz just said, immigrants and immigration, there's a lot of people that are waiting in line and doing it the right way and taking 10 or 15 years and spending
Right.
$10,000 or $15,000. And then there are other people that are just kind of running across the border, and it's just, there's got to be a process, a fair process.
Or it won't be a nation.
Americans Americans see unfairness and they just don't like it. It's just innate to Americans.
Very well said. Well, I want to thank both of you Liz Winterrowd, candidate for District Number 53 here for New Mexico House. See how you can help her, liz4nm.com. And my good friend Rick Reynaud, who maybe you'll be back again. You know, we could do a whole show just with you too, because you have a lot of experience too politically. I want to thank both of them for being here with us today on the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. I want to thank you, chipsters and chipsteros, for tuning in. Please tell your friends about us. I want to thank Haley and also Joey Garza, and today the helper, Daniel, brother. I thought it was Joey, but I know you're not Joey, but you sure look like him. His brother. So thank you very much to all, and be with us again. Next week, we're going to have another person that we know, a wonderful candidate, Dave Tofstead, and Dave is running for New Mexico State Senate, District Number 36. I'm Alice Lara. Wonderful to be with you. Have a great rest of the week. Happy Easter. Happy Holy Week. I don't know if it was Happy Holy Week, but have a sacred Holy Week. Enjoy, and we'll see you again on the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. Guac on. Love you guys.